And we're going to be looking at tutorial 2, getting started with CSS in the JavaScript book. Should have had this loaded. And chapter 2 in the other book, algorithm discovery and design, is what you'll do there. So you read chapter, look through those study tools, and then take a test on that. Very seldom will we cover material over in the invitation to computer science, because it's mainly you read it and you answer the questions. So it's nothing really hard on a lot of this. I think there is one chapter where we do focus on it. Okay, so getting started with CSS. Now, just to refresh your memories, here's a HTML file that I created this morning. By the way, I'm in File Explorer here. If you right-click in a white area, there's a new option, and you can do a new text document. And then you can type test2.html and make sure you delete the .txt. Press enter and then click yes. And that's how you can create a brand new one without going to Notepad first. Now, to see the extensions, remember you have to go to the view here and you have to have file name extensions checked. Now that I got that, I'll right click on it, and if you've got Notepad++ installed, you can edit it with that, or you can do an open with and choose Notepad. Remember, the HTML tag is how we start our web page. How we start the body is with the body, and we close these with the slash, body and slash HTML. And then my page. So if I save that and come over here and right click on this and say open with Google Chrome, you see my page. Now we also had our header section and slash head. That goes above your body. Head goes above the body. I guess I never got that before. Head goes on top of the body. And then you can do title, and my second day of HTML CSS / title. Now you do not have to have spacing. You do not have to have separate lines. You can put this all in one line. HTML doesn't care. It works just fine. And see how then it says my second day of HTML CSS up here in the tab. Now you can have a font. Let's see if I get this right. I'm not. Sometimes I have to Google it to get the answer. Color equals red, and then my page, and then end it with slash font. Save that. Come over here, refresh it, and it's now red. So we can change how it looks. Now, I could have an H1 on the outside like that, and a slash H1 here. And now if I refresh this, I've applied that font color to my page. Now this is the old style of controlling colors. Up here in the body, I think you can put I think it's BG color, background color equals beige. It might just be color. or it might be something else. And refresh that, and now it's beige. Okay, so you got some limited formatting. CSS takes you beyond that limited formatting and allows you more power, more flexibility, which we'll see. Now you can mix CSS with the old style of formatting you see in HTML. And let's see, there's my PowerPoint. Objectives: explore the history of CSS, study different types of style sheets, explore style precedence and inheritance, apply color in CSS, use contextual selectors, work with attribute selectors, apply text and font styles, use a web font, define list styles, work with margins and padding space, use pseudo classes and pseudo elements, insert page content with CSS. And this gives you a picture. The H2 headings appear in white on a light orange background as specified by the H2 style rule. So they're applying a style rule, CSS, to H2. And page text is set to the color value, so that's changing the color value. I can't tell that by looking at it myself. And page body background color set to ivory using the body style rule. Appearance of the page is determined by one or more style sheets written in the cascading style sheet CSS language. Latest version of the CSS language is CSS 3. And CSS is built upon several modules where each module is focused on a separate design topic. Now you got three types we'll look at. Browser styles or user agent styles. Styles are built into the browser. User-defined styles. Styles defined by a user based on the configuration settings of the user's browser. External styles. Styles created by a website author placed within a CSS file and linked to the page. Or actually, you got more than that. Embedded styles. Styles added to the head of the HTML document. And inline styles. Styles added as element attributes within an HTML document applied only to that particular element. Although this is not CSS, I applied this color to just this one element right here. I applied this color here just to this one element. I don't know if I can do a background color on H1. I never have tried. Equals blue. Doesn't look like it. Let's try that. Nope. Okay. If you want to do that kind of formatting, CSS is what you need to do anyway. Now, just to give you some practical examples, and before we go further into PowerPoint, this is the website w3schools.com. I love this site. If you want to learn about many topics, come out here. You can go through these. They're easy to understand. They got try it yourself tutorials and so forth. You notice that there's a Learn CSS here. If you click that, comes here, gives you an example, and then you can try it yourself. This example is where we're putting the style sheet in the header section. So we got our head here at the top. I'll make that bigger. There we go. We got our head at the top, and then you start it with a style tag, and you end it with a style tag. Then you tell the HTML tag name, body, and then you have a property that goes along with it inside of the curly braces. So we got background color light blue, and so that makes that light blue. Now here's for H1, and then you got curly braces, color white, and then text align center. By putting this up in the header section and within a style sheet, this applies it to every H1 you use on your document. So down here, if I had another H1, my second H1, and if I click run, you see how it's again centered and it's white. You can put other ones here besides these, not limited to just ones you're seeing. There's a whole bunch of properties you can actually use. Let's say font family, and I'm gonna guess here. Surely Arial is one of them. I did change it. Comic Sans, not that I know how to spell that. Sometimes if you put a bogus one, it defaults to the previous one. I can't really tell here. Obviously, David's font is not a valid one. Okay, so that's I spelled Comic Sans right, or you can't use it. One of the two. Or spelled it wrong and can't use it. Okay. Arial actually did change though, so that looks like a valid one to use. Now let's try font size, because I'm curious about that myself. Because the idea of H1 is by default bigger. So let's say 5 pixels. And made it 5 pixels. With this, then you can apply these style sheets throughout without putting it on each individual HTML tag. So over here, up here after title or before, doesn't matter where, I'm going to define my style sheets. And I'll close the style sheets. And I want to do H1. You don't have to have the brace on the same line. Again, this is the formatting of it is whatever you want to do. And I'll say color. Blue. And then do my closing curly brace for H1. Now let's save that. And come over to my page here and refresh this. Now it doesn't change because we had our font color set down here. When you set an individual property down here, it takes precedence over what you put up here in a style and a header. Let's get rid of this. Now it changes to blue. Now I could up here set to body. Trying to have some kind of system here. And I don't remember what it is, so let me look. For my body, background dash color. Background dash color light blue. Now, as I'm putting that example here, that would make my background have my background color of my body be light blue, except I already have a BG color here of beige. So let's see what happens. Now that's interesting. I did not expect that. I expected this to take precedence over the CSS. Not consistent on that, is it? But I no longer need that down there. And even more than that, this gives you a lot more options. Now this is the embedded styles. So that's embedded. The inline we're going to see an example of. That's where you put it within each individual HTML tag. And then the third one will be external styles. I'll have you do, we'll have a project where you'll do one of each type. Now I don't know if I can locate it quickly over here. By the way, this is a good sandbox, good testing place where you can do this at. And you can copy this. You highlight it, right click on it, and choose copy. And then you can paste it over in your notepad. You can use this in conjunction with your notepad. So this is very easy testing. Let's see. I think I remember this from last semester. CS examples, templates, exercise, references, exam. Okay. I think that's one we just looked at. Talks about syntax, selectors, how to. There it is. 3 ways to insert CSS. That's what I was just talking about. The external that's the hardest one. We'll take a look at that last. The internal CSS, that's what they referred to it as. That's where we put it up in the header section. That's the example we just looked at. And then when you apply it to H1, for example, then anytime you use H1, it applies the maroon color and does the margin left at 40 pixels. See how this is pushed in. If I change that to 80, see how it does that. So you can have a lot of control with it. Okay, so that's what we just looked at. And again, I'm going to have you create 3 separate CSS examples for the projects for today, and that'll be one of them. Now, I'm going to leave it up to you on what do you want to change. But I want you to let's see. This is for the CSS within the head. I want you to have 3 HTML tags, each with 2 properties. And I encourage you to do more than just choose color and margin left here. To experiment. Google H1 CSS properties and see what's possible. That's how you learn in computer science. You're not taught everything in this class. You're not taught in any class. You just you got to learn how to research. And nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people have every property memorized of CSS. I don't. Now inline, that's the next one we're going to take a look at. This is where you put the style sheet right within the tag, like within H1. And notice the format here, style equals, and then we got our quotes, and then the property, like color, colon, blue, semicolon, and then your next property, colon, center, semicolon, and then your next property, and you keep on going. Now this applies just to that one tag, so it doesn't apply it to every H1. Okay, So you see here, I made the color blue. I centered it. And this is a heading. But if I had another H1 here, this is a second one /H1. None of the formatting is applied to that. Now, if we came up here and we put our style sheet up here in the header, and style /style, and I had my H1, and I said color red, and run that. See how it applied to my second H1 over here? Did not apply to my first one. My first one's still blue. The order of precedence is that if you got a style sheet applied to an individual HTML tag, it does not override that if you have it up here in the header section. With that one exception. Remember how we had a BG color on body and it overrode it, which is curious. But that's how you do it on an individual. So let's show that in our example over here. Okay, so that's going to be for that H1. You're going to have H1. I'll say style equals color. What color do I want to make it? Beige. Text align. I'm assuming center. I'm assuming right is an option. See, this is try it. It's really easy to try. It doesn't work, then you can Google it, and that should right align it in theory. Okay, so let me refresh that. Am I looking at the right one? Test2.html. Of course, helps if I put something. Helps if I put something /H1. I go back to bed. Okay, so it's beige and it's aligned right. Now notice that I have my color up here blue, but by putting color again down here in individual HTML tag, that overrode my style sheet up here in the header section. And that's going to be the second part. I'm going to have you have 3 HTML tags with the style embedded within each one. This is up in the head, and these are in the individual HTML tags. Okay, so we've seen two types already. The third style, by the way, that was inline. This book refers to it as inline style. It'd be nice if they were consistent. This calls it inline style. This calls it inline CSS. This one called it internal CSS, and that called it embedded style. So there isn't one consistent on that. The last type, we don't really focus on these two here very much. So really 3 types we look at. External styles. Styles created by a website author, placed within a CSS file, and linked to the page. Now, after we look at an example of this, then we'll talk about the power of it. Okay. Oh, that was up top. Okay, so we got our standard web page here, and then we got our a link, and rel equals style sheet, and type equals text.css, and href is equal to this. All of this is exactly the same anytime you use it, except this has to match whatever the name of your file is. So in a separate file called mystyle.css, we're going to have these elements here. So you have them in a separate file. Okay. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to create a mystyle.css. So I come over here, I'll right click in this, and I'll choose new text document. I'm going to type mystyle, see if I can spell, .css, get rid of the .txt, and press enter. Okay. And you see it says type is cascading style document, or style sheet document. I can right click on this and choose open with notepad. And I'm going to put in H2. Now you notice that this looks exactly the same format as when we had it up in the header section, which it is. It's just in a separate file. So I'm going to make the H2, the color is purple, or if purple's a color in terms of styles sheets. You can't just make up a name here. David's favorite color. No, that doesn't work. It has to be default ones that got defined. Okay, so that's now in mystyle.css applied to H2. Now, and I'm going to cheat. I'm going to copy this. This has to be up in our header section to link in that style sheet. So I'm going to go to my test2 here. I go up to my header section. I don't want it to contain within the style that's already there. And I put this in here. What this is going to do is we're linking that to an external file, and we're telling it to type and giving it the name. This will bring in those styles defined over in that style sheet. So then anytime we have H2 used here, this is an H2. You can see I'm real clever in the mornings. Okay, so save that, come over here, refresh this. Notice it's purple. Nowhere in the HTML document do I indicate that it's purple. I just use H2. Now again, we can override this. We can have a style within the individual, so we can have a different color. Color red. This is now red slash H2. We could have it defined up here. Now I don't remember the order here. It could be that since this is first, this takes precedence over this, or vice versa. But we'll see. We'll see if that first one's still purple. And color yellow. Save that. And then down here, let's refresh this. Okay, so this is still purple. And this is now red, because that's what we defined here, or now still red, I should say. So this was overridden by this. So that's interesting. Now, so it appears like if you have an external style sheet, that takes precedence over one defined up in the style section. Unless if I reverse the order of these, let's try that. I'm just curious. I will remember this an hour from now, but I was curious about it now. Save that. Excuse me. So the order of it does matter. If I put the style sheet up here at the top, then this, since it comes after that, overrides the H2 that's up here. Okay, well, that's good to know. Won't remember it like I say, but next semester I'll rediscover it. But that shows you an external style sheet. What's the power of it? Well, let's put that back to where it was. Because I want to demonstrate something. Okay, so got that. It's purple. Let's create, or I guess I got another HTML document out there. I started this morning the test, and let's see. By the way, let me edit with Notepad++ just to demonstrate that. Is it doing down? No. Okay. So up here, I'll type my. Now notice as I start typing header or head, it puts that there, and I can do a tab to do a completion on that. So this is a lot of people like Notepad++ for this reason. And Control V, there's my style sheet. I'm gonna bring that in. So let's say I have an what was it, H2 I think. This is a H2 heading. Real exciting. Save that. Let's open that one. Okay, so purple, purple. Now I might look at the size and say, well, they're different sizes. Though that's because within this web page, I held down my control key, did my mouse wheel and make it bigger so I could see it. Had nothing to do with my style sheets. Okay, so H2 is in both of these documents. Like that. Now, let's go in and change the style sheet here to, what's the color? Running out of orange. I don't think I've used orange. So I'm changing that in mystyle.css. Now if I come over here, refresh this, it's now changed there. If I refresh this, it's now changed here. That is the power of style sheets. If I have my style sheets, which is more than just colors, it's a lot more than that. If I have it defined in external style sheets, if I got 1,000 web pages that are linking to that external style sheet, if I make one change in that one document, that one external CSS file, then it'll propagate through all 1,000 web pages. I don't have to bring up all 1,000 web pages and make the changes. It automatically applies across the board. Very powerful in that regard. Very dangerous too, because one change and you just screwed up 1,000 web pages. Although, since you changed it in the CSS file, it's easy to fix. You just fix it there, and then it's automatically fixed anytime anybody loads it. Anybody that's doing any kind of serious web design is using CSS. Let me show Callie. Come here, right click, and choose View Page Source. Let me make that bigger. Hold on my Control key and do my mouse wheel. And you see down here, they're importing these a little bit different, but you see these are referring to style sheets. And these style sheets do different items. Let me search, Control F, search for .css. 4, 5, 6. I guess there's 6 involved there. Notice that somewhere here's my header section. Then down here, I have my beginning style, and I say the type, and then I have my ending style. And then they're doing an at import the URL. I have no clue why they're using that format versus the one I just showed you. Now, if I want to look at these, that's I think it'll let you look at them. Let's see here. I'll highlight that, right-click, copy, and come over here and slash CSS. There we go. So now this is not one that Callie wrote. It looks like this is from CodeCanyon.net, user Capel, flyout website banners position. Goes through here. They define. We're going to talk about a lot of this, not all of it. But looks like things are defined: vertical banners, horizontal banners, rectangular banners, square banners. Somebody has done a lot of work to design this. And then Callie is taking advantage of their work and not reinventing the wheel. Let's go to this. Hopefully it's not an inappropriate site. Since it's on Callie's, I'm assuming it isn't. Okay. Here's the HTML5 slide it. Click that. Live preview. Pick a demo below and see it in action. Okay. Dynamic graph chart. Okay, so sticky and sliding CSS bars animate your stats and give your visitors clear information. I guess that's what this is over here. Kind of how that, when I loaded that, see how it flies over. I wonder if I click the X, and then this little bars down here. So I click that, comes that. So if you want to add that in to your website, then I suppose you get the package now. I don't know what that does. Refuse to connect. Oh, buy now. Well, I don't want to buy it. But again, you know, this is defined with style sheets and HTML5. And so simple menu, pull me. Pull down, no, click. Okay, and it pops down, and then you can choose that. Buy now. Just curious how much he's charging. Maybe I'm missing it. Oh, $7. So you can see Kali probably didn't pay a whole lot for whatever that option does. I couldn't tell you. I could guess, but so all these are separate CSS. Again, there's tons of these for sale out there cheap. You know, why reinvent the wheel when you can take advantage of the style sheet somebody else has created? Now, we're not going to do anything that complex in this class. We used to offer a CSS class at Cowley, but that was when we did more web design. Here, this is just an introduction to it. Okay, probably more than you want to know about that, but oh, and so then third type is I want you to have an external CSS file with at least 2 HTML tags with 2 properties defined inside the CSS with 2 HTML documents linking to it. Not much different than what I did, except for I didn't have 2 HTML tags. I just did H2 in my CSS file. So in your CSS file here, you'll have 2 separate ones. H2, body, H1, and, do a little bit of research again. Don't just use color like I'm doing. Now, if I want to research it, let's see. CSS, H2, properties. Complete HTML reference. Okay, so here's looks like for H1. This isn't what I want with all of them, but looks like you can display block. What in the world does that do? Font size, margin top, so you can set the top margin. Okay, so that puts more space up there. Bottom margin, what comes after the H1. So you can again push that down. Margin left, using that convention, I'm assuming 1.3 EM. Margin right probably wouldn't. I wonder what the margin right would do. 2.1, oops. 2.1 EM. Yeah, I wouldn't think. There's nothing to the right of it, so not sure what margin right does. Font weight bold. I don't know what there would be besides bold. You can see we found different properties. Let's give a list of all of them. CSS fonts. Font size. H developer. Okay, still not finding what I'm wanting. I want a real simple listing of all the properties for a HTML tag. Font weight bold, we saw that. Let's see. I'll give up pretty soon. As I've already shown you, font style, I guess you can do italics. Excuse me. Maybe I'm looking for the wrong thing. How about attributes? H2 CSS attributes. Default CSS styling of heading tags. Kind of hard to believe it isn't a nice list somewhere. Oh well, I'll give that up. I already showed you how you can locate some, so you just bring up examples and see what you come up with. Okay, a lot of this we looked at already. General syntax CSS style rule is your selector, like body, H1 or whatever. Your property, like color, and then over here your value, like blue. Browser extensions or extended library style properties in the browser. Vendor prefix indicates the browser vendor that created and supports the style property. Would not use this because then it isn't standard. I'd go with the standard ones myself. Got our embedded style sheets inserted directly into HTML files metadata by adding the following element to the document head. This is where we put it up in the header section. This is our inline styles. This is where we had our element, like H2, and then we had our style equals, and then inside of quotes, this. So this was our down here where we put the style right within the tag. The more specific style rule has precedence over the more general style. That's where if you put the style within the HTML tag, that takes precedence over a style defined up in the header section. Specificity, hard to say that word, is an issue when two or more styles conflict. If two rules have equal specificity and equal importance, and the one that's defined last has precedence. We saw that up above. Remember how we changed the order up here, where instead of having this style sheet here, we put it up above this style. And it's right. The last one listed is the one that took precedence. Style inheritance, a process in which properties are passed from parent elements to its children. For example, the phone style rule sets a color of article text to blue, and the rule is applied to any paragraph or other elements nested within that article. And okay, what's that talking about? Color gray. No, red. Okay, so I got that defined as red there. And what? Refresh that. Notice that this is red because when I apply the color red to the body, then anything that doesn't have a color already defined in the body is by default red. So that's what they mean by an inheritance. If I had anything, let's see. Color pink. And down here, I have this. First, second, /OL. Save that. Refresh this. See how those are pink. Because we applied it to the OL, then anything embedded within an OL is going to be pink. So that's an inheritance. It applies down to this. I do not have to sit there and declare an LI. When I do the OL, it automatically do all my OLs. Everything inside them is pink. Okay, that's what it's talking about with style inheritance. Can't really see it with this example they gave, but browser developer tools allow designers to view HTML code and CSS styles. They make it easier to locate the source of the style. You got CSS comments. We're not going to worry about comments. Not all this stuff we're going to focus on. Now here is what Callie was using, import style sheets at imports. So a little bit different than what I showed. Which is correct? I don't know. Okay. So here, my style.css. That would be the implication here. Now, if I remember right, they Callie had this embedded within a style sheet, though. Maybe my memory's wrong. Let's try that. Save that. And refresh that. Okay, so it didn't change anything. So it brought in the items for H2. And I don't know what was H2, but orange. Okay, that brought in my orange. So it's still orange. So that's another way you can import in a style sheet. So I guess there's two options there. Let's see, similar to adding link elements to an HTML file. Okay. We did link the first time. Remember, that's how we did it. So two different ways you could do it. Working with color in CSS, instead of actually putting in a color like I was doing, you can do red, green, blue, RGB, and then put in numbers here. I want to give an example. It doesn't look like it. That's interesting. RGB, I'm going to guess 10, 20, 30. Let's see if that syntax is correct. Black. 110. Don't know what it changed to. Brown. What's the benefit of this? It gives you a lot more options in remembering 10 colors. If you go into like paint.net, This is a free package. So there's a lot of different ones. You see down here is a whole color spectrum. So if I choose a color I want, like say I like that color right there, and if I choose the more, it'll tell me what my red GB, RGB will be. 168, 255, 153. So 168, 168, 255, 153. Save that. Now let's see what that looks like. Refresh that, and that color, more or less, matches what I have in paint.net right here. So again, gives you a ton of options. In terms of the total colors, I think each one's 255. This gives you 255 times 255 times 255, or 255 to the third power. That's how many colors that you could choose from. 16,581,375. So RGB opens up a lot of options, as you can see. And that RGB is just mixing together your red, blue, and green to get different colors. There's HSL. And the format of it, I guess, is HSL, 38, 90%, 60%. HSV. I wonder if that's the same as HSL. Let's see. Let's try this. 60, 40, 100. HSL. H3. Now I'm doing this in my external style sheet. Color HSL, and over in paint.net, that particular color was 60, 40%, 100%. Okay, save that. Go to one of our documents here. And then down here, I'll create an H3. What color is this H3? And didn't give us the same color as that. So HSV is different than HSL. I'm not a color expert. I'll tell you that right to begin with. Looks like if I did that, I'd probably get that. So I'm not sure how you would use this in terms of paint.net. Now I'm not going to go through all this, but you can define opacity, defines how solid color appears. Opacity is like can you see through it type of deal. Make it like a ghost effect, and you can see the format here, RGBA, and then you got your red, green, blue, and then your opacity at the end. Looks like it's from 0 to 1. So 0.5 would be halfway transparent. HSLA, hue, saturation, lightness, and opacity. Text and background, we talked about that. Progressive enhancement. Like I say, we're not going to focus on all this. If we still had the CSS class, this is where you go into all this detail. Font family, put fonts, where font is a comma list, separated list, also known as a font stack. I'll put this PowerPoint up. Book goes in a lot more detail if you read the chapter on it. If you are going into web design, if that's your goal, is become a webmaster, you should know this in and out. If you're going to go into computer science, just having a general knowledge of CSS and being able to do the basics, what I'm going to assign is all you really need to worry about. Why would you need a font stack? Well, a font stack is a comma separated list, like Arial, comma this, comma that, because you may not have all the fonts that's in the list. And so if you don't have the first one, it'll go to the next one. You don't have the next one, it goes to the next one, and so forth. Now it talks here the web safe font stacks. There is a way through HTML to download fonts, so that even if they don't have that particular font on their device, it'll download it for viewing purposes. I haven't done that for a while. I'm not sure if that's somewhere in this course where we see an example of that or not. For example, your web browser that's on your Android phone. Your Android phone probably doesn't have every font under the sun. So, you need to define specifically, what's available for it. And you can see here, this is the embedded part right here. Embedded fonts and style sheets, and where it's compatible. Okay. This gives you an example of doing a font face. Viewport, relative unit to express length as a percentage if the width and height of the browser window. So 1 VW is 1% of the browser window width. This must be height for H for height. Excuse me. Sizing. I think as you go through this and you read the chapter, like I say, don't sit there and get caught up in this. Now this is kind of nice. To change the type of list marker to prevent any display of a list marker, use list style type : Okay. Let's try that. And I assume it's on LI. We'll see. I always have to play with it. List style type. And we saw this last time where I had an embedded list. And these are different ones you can do. Lower Greek. That's interesting. Lower Greek. Okay, so I'm bringing that in. I think I got LIs right here. Can't hardly see them with the pink, but refresh that and it changes this to alpha and this is the beta. I wonder if I can get rid of that pink so you can actually see it. Where did I set that at? OL black. So you see it changed them from 1 to 2 to alpha and beta. And so this is all your different options. So if I want Roman numerals, lower Roman. So if I want these to be Roman here, then in my style sheet, I'll come here, my list style type, lower Roman. And refresh this, and it becomes lower Roman. So that's, like I say, that's kind of nice. Because sometimes you want more interesting markers. I really thought there was a way to put your own image in there too. Oops, too soon. Using images for list markers. So list style image, and then URL, and then your name of your picture. So if you have little smiley faces that you want to have as your image, then you can use that. Okay, so little images there. Let's try this. I'm going to copy that image. Paste that over here. And do a save as. And oh, intro CSS smiley.png. And click OK. Okay, so I got my smiley.png. So then I want to have an URL here for my list style. So list style image. URL and smiley. I'm surprised I don't have to put quotes around that. Double quotes. Okay, so now let's come over here. Too big. But you can see it puts those there. Image resize and change this to third of that. Maybe select 20. There we go. Save that. Now come here and refresh this. Okay, and so you can put your own image on there. And they give example there. List marker position, either outside or inside. That shows you a little bit difference. Again, I'm not that big on formatting myself, but you can see the options. Margins. I talked about what is padding, what is border, what is margin. I actually, I'm more of a programmer. I don't get excited about styles. Besides changing the image on your bullets. Let's see. I'm not gonna go over all this. Displaying attribute values, block quote. Okay, that's probably the all exciting stuff out of that. So again, the project is to create this, having a CSS. You have three. This is where you got CSS up in the header section. You have three HTML tags defined in the header section, in the style, under the style for the header, and each with two properties. And then, of course, items within in your body of your web page to use it. Three HTML tags with style embedded within each one. So this is where they're embedded in each individual H1 or H2 or whatever you use. And then where you have an external CSS we looked at with at least two HTML tags with two properties defined inside the CSS with two HTML documents linking to it. Because I want you to see the power when you make a change to your CSS document, how it automatically propagates through the rest of it. If you think about Amazon, how many products are on Amazon.com. 12 million products. So in theory, if we didn't use any kind of management type system for our web pages, we'd need 12 million web pages. Well, that'd take quite a while to maintain, and even more than that, if we had to make a change to one item, um, besides take quite a bit to maintain, it'd take a long time to change it. How long would it take you to change 12 million web pages? Forever. If you have designed it, and there's other items besides style sheets, but if you've designed it correctly, then you can make a change to just a few documents. It'll propagate through all 12 million of those products. Now, there's another way of doing that. Instead of each one having their own separate web page, you can use a database-driven approach. And database-driven approach means that you just have one template anyway, and then it goes out to a database and pulls all the relevant information and plugs it in appropriate spots. So there's different ways you can do it. When you got 12 million products, you don't got 12 million web pages. This is using a database of some sort. If you look at Kali, Kali is not using a database for their main web page. Wouldn't make any sense to. But if I go to academics, and where's the catalog? It's probably something I should know. Academic catalog. Goes into the catalog here. Go into programs of study. I go into these. Notice this is calling preview_program.php. That is pulling from a database. So they got this stored in a database somewhere, and there's not a web page where this is all defined. It's pulling this and plugging it into the appropriate places on this page. So you can have a mix of them. You know, this right here is not coming from a database, but parts of our website are. Well, we'll go ahead and stop there. I'll put the project out along with this YouTube video. And again, if you have troubles, let me know. Especially this time at the end, I'll use to answer any questions if people have it.